Welcome to Tomorrow Unveiled, where we strap in and explore the leading edge of technology, ensuring you are never caught flat-footed by the future.
And this week, strap in is definitely the right phrase. The sources compiled by our dedicated research team didn't just show, small tweaks to existing tech. They really signaled a pivotal, almost foundational shift in how we interact with the digital world.
Yeah,
We are, it seems, officially entering what the industry is calling the strapped-in era of wearable technology.
that's right. It feels different this time. For the longest time, wearables were just, well, passive data collectors, weren't they?
Exactly. Step counters, heart rate monitors.
They tracked the explicit actions you took, how many steps, how high your heart rate climbed.
Yeah.
But that era feels like it's over now.
Definitely. The fundamental change we're seeing, the one our research team documented across multiple sources, is this move toward active human-computer integration, HCI.
HCI, right. And that means what
Yeah.
exactly?
It's about this radical blurring of the boundary between thought, action, and our digital life, turning these devices into, well, almost symbiotic, seamless extensions of us.
Symbiotic. Wow, that's a strong word.
Well, look at the convergence just this week. It was kind of stunning. In just 7 days, we saw the immediate launch of a new platform war for the future of computing, right on your face.
Mm-hmm.
We saw the effective commercialization of non-invasive, consumer-grade brain-computer interfaces, BCIs,
BCIs coming out of the lab.
right into potential consumer devices.
Yeah.
And on top of that, major advancements in how we augment human strength and even simulate physical touch digitally.
It's a lot to unpack. So our mission here on Tomorrow Unveiled is to dive into those massive shifts. We're going to look closely at that strategic battle heating up between Meta and Apple, who gets control of your eyesight, basically, and the data that comes with it.
Yeah, the data piece is huge.
Then we'll investigate the rise of these discrete BCIs, brain-computer interfaces, and start asking what happens when a machine can potentially read your subconscious preferences. Kind of scary.
Deeply concerning, potentially, yes.
And finally, we'll explore how medical devices are shifting gears, moving from just general wellness gadgets into like certified life-saving diagnostic tools, real lifelines.
It's such a fast-moving landscape. And what we're seeing isn't just, products getting a bit better. It's a new foundational war for the future platform of computing itself.
Okay, so let's start there then. Where the fight seems fiercest right now, this new platform war for the face. Right, let's unpack this platform more because it really does have all the elements of a classic tech showdown, doesn't it? You've got a bold, kind of disruptive move by one titan, Meta, then a sudden strategic reversal by the other, Apple. And maybe most importantly, a potentially revolutionary input method that could just change the whole user experience equation.
Absolutely. The research team that compiled this information really highlighted this convergence, Meta's launch and Apple's immediate, almost reactive strategic counter. So the centerpiece here is the launch of the Meta Ray-Ban display glasses. They actually became available September 30th, starting at $799.
And these aren't just the old camera glasses, are they? These are actual AR glasses.
That's the key difference.
Sure.
True full-color augmented reality. The tech details show a micro HUD, a heads-up display, integrated in the right lens. It offers a glanceable display, a 600 by 600 resolution, with maybe a 20-degree field of view. Not huge, but glanceable.
Okay. And battery life, that's always the Achilles heel for AR.
It's actually pretty decent here. Around 6 hours of active use from the glasses themselves. And then the charging case, which is pretty sleek actually, extends that up to about 30 hours total.
6 hours active is,
Yeah.
well, it's usable, right? But honestly, the display specs, the battery life, those feel like iterative upgrades to me.
They are, to an extent.
The real innovation here, the thing that our research team flagged as potentially redefining human-computer interaction, it isn't the glasses themselves, is it? It's that neural band, the wrist controller.
You nailed it. That is the absolute game changer. The metaneural band uses a technology called surface electromyography, or sEMG.
sEMG. Okay, I've heard of EMG in like medical settings for muscle testing.
Exactly. That's where it comes from. But Meta has miniaturized it, refined it for consumer use. Essentially, this wristband has these really sensitive electrodes. They detect the subtle, often totally imperceptible electrical signals generated by the motor neurons in your forearm muscles when you even just plan to move your fingers.
Wait, so if I just think about pinching my thumb and index finger, even if I barely move them, or maybe don't move them at all visibly, the band reads the neural signal, the electrical preparation for the action, and turns that into a command.
Precisely that. That tiny, subtle movement, or even just the intent before the movement, gets translated into core digital commands. Things like click, scroll, back, swiping an item on the AR display.
Wow. Okay. That solves Well, that could solve the massive input problem that's basically plagued every attempt at mainstream AR for the last decade, couldn't it?
That's exactly why it matters so much. This is where it gets really interesting, and our research team's analysis was spot on here. Why is sEMG such a big deal specifically for face computing?
Because the old ways were just bad.
We're terrible. Socially and physically, they failed. If you tried using voice commands in public, you were disruptive, right? You sacrificed privacy.
Yeah, talking to your glasses looks weird.
And if you tried gestural hand tracking, like waving your hands around in front of your face,
Hmm.
well, first, it gets tiring pretty fast. But more importantly, it was just socially awkward, massively awkward. It created that hug a glass hole effect, remember? That killed early adoption
I remember. So the sEMG neural band gets around all of that social friction.
completely. You can maintain full, silent control over the AR interface, selecting menus, navigating map overlays, reading messages, whatever it is. And you could do it all while your hands are just resting naturally.
Yep.
In your lap, in your pocket, holding a coffee mug. It doesn't matter.
Because the input is coming from those tiny, invisible wrist signals.
Exactly. It's subtle, it's silent, and it offers genuinely private control. The analogy used over and over in the source material is that this is basically the mouse that face computing has been desperately waiting for.
The mouse for your face, that's a good way to put it.
And we should probably touch on the launch strategy too, because it tells us a lot about Meta's thinking here. The sources confirmed Meta mandated an in-person professional fitting process for this $799 bundle.
An in-person fitting. In 2025, that seems counterintuitive, right? Doesn't that create friction? Why not just ship it out?
It absolutely creates adoption friction, yes. On the surface, it looks like it limits their ability to scale quickly, which you'd think is crucial if you're trying to win a platform war.
Right.
It does limit the initial speed. That's a really critical observation. But the research suggests this is actually a very deliberate, quite sophisticated strategic move. They're prioritizing quality over immediate scale.
How so? Why is the fit so important?
Because the accuracy of its sEMG is incredibly dependent on a precise fit. The electrodes need to be positioned just right against the individual user's specific wrist and muscle structure. So by meticulously controlling that initial fitting process, Meta is essentially guaranteeing a positive high-accuracy user experience right from day one.
Oh, okay. So they avoid people having a bad first experience because the band wasn't positioned correctly.
Exactly. They're sacrificing initial speed for ensuring high user satisfaction among early adopters. And crucially, this also ensures they're gathering high-quality, reliable interaction data from these first users before they try to mass scale the product globally.
So it's kind of a controlled public launch disguised as a premium retail experience. Smart.
Very smart. Focused on getting the foundation right,
Yeah.
#tag 1.2 Apple's strategic pivot, and the data battle.
And almost immediately after this Meta launch, the ground shifted over at Apple, didn't it? This week, we saw corroborated reports detailing Apple's immediate strategic countermove. And it sounds like a massive internal shift over there.
Yeah, it really does. They reportedly paused development on their planned cheaper Vision Pro redesign that was apparently codenamed N100 internally. And they seem to have reallocated substantial staff resources to fast-track development of AI-centric smart glasses.
Wow. Okay, pausing the cheaper headset and focusing on glasses. That feels
Right.
huge.
Yeah.
That's Apple validating Meta's whole approach, isn't it?
It really is immensely validating for Meta's bottom-up strategy. I mean, think about Apple's history.
Yeah.
They almost always follow a top-down approach, right?
Yeah, launch the super high-end, expensive, maybe bulky thing first.
Yep.
Perfect the tech, then iterate down to consumer prices later.
The $3,499 Vision Pro was a perfect example of that playbook. So, by abandoning the N100, the cheaper headset, and shifting focus directly to more affordable glasses, Apple is basically tacitly acknowledging that the market might prefer Meta's path here, starting with accessible, fashion-forward eyewear, and then building up the capability.
That's a rare strategic reversal for Apple, especially in a major hardware race like this. It really shows how seriously they're taking this Meta threat.
Absolutely. It signals they see face computing, probably driven by AI and these new inputs, as the next major platform.
So if the cheaper headset is paused, what does Apple's new roadmap look like now? What are they accelerating towards?
Well, the research team points to the acceleration of two sort of parallel models. First, there's this thing codenamed N50. It's described as potentially displayless, more focused on audio and camera capabilities, maybe targeting a 2027 release window.
Displayless, so like smart audio glasses with a camera.
Kind of. The idea is it would rely heavily on an advanced, really context-aware version of Siri, powered by some serious AI smarts.
Okay, that's one track. And the other?
The other is accelerating development of a fully display-equipped model, something directly comparable to the Meta Ray-Ban display glasses. That seems to have been fast-tracked from maybe 2028 to compete more directly and sooner.
Got it. So a two-pronged approach. But while this hardware battle screens versus no screens is fascinating, the research team kept emphasizing something else. They stressed that the real stakes here, the fundamental battle, it's all about data control, right? This is really a massive AI race for contextual awareness.
100%. Think about what makes a truly proactive, context-aware AI assistant actually work. The kind that feels magical. It needs to anticipate your needs, like maybe reminding you to grab your umbrella before you leave home because it sees rain clouds forming through your glasses camera, or knows your route involves walking outside.
Right, that kind of seamless, helpful integration.
Exactly. And achieving that level of awareness requires massive amounts of real-world first-person visual and auditory data streams. That's what you need to train the AI models effectively.
And Meta has a huge head start there, don't they? Because they've been shipping camera-equipped glasses since way back in 2021.
Precisely. Meta has been quietly collecting this absolutely critical data trove for years now. They have potentially a multi-year head start in gathering the visual ground truth, the actual human-centric view of the world needed to train the next generation of AI assistants.
While Apple focused on the super high-end Vision Pro. Well, hardly anyone wears that outside their living room or office, right? So they have almost none of that real-world first-person data.
That seems to be the situation. Their data collection has been far more limited, likely focused on controlled environments.
So this displayless N50 device, it isn't just a simple consumer gadget then. It has a hidden purpose.
That's certainly how the research team views it. The N50 looks like a strategic necessity for Apple. It's effectively a rapid data gathering vehicle, designed specifically to close that critical AI training gap as quickly as possible.
Like a vacuum cleaner for contextual data?
Kinda, yeah. It's a way to quickly hoover up enough real-world sights and sounds to feed their AI development, allowing them to catch up to Meta's data advantage before they launch their true AR competitor glasses.
So the platform war isn't just about who builds the better product. It's maybe more about who captures the most contextual first-person data first.
That appears to be the underlying strategic battleground right now. Data is the fuel for the AI that will likely define the next computing platform.
Okay, so moving from the battle for our eyes and the data they capture, let's shift to, well, the battle for the mind. Maybe that's too dramatic, but the research this week really did confirm that BCI tech is moving fast. Brain-computer interfaces are shifting from, the surgical lab or complex clinical setups into potentially discrete consumer-friendly form factors. We might actually be starting to mainstream the mind.
It's fascinating. And the key seems to be the form factor breakthrough. For listeners maybe less familiar, BCI, brain-computer interfaces, they work by reading electrical activity in the brain. The classic way to measure this is electroencephalography, EEG. But traditionally, EEG needs that really cumbersome cap full of wires and gelled electrodes. Looks like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Right, not exactly something you'd wear down the street. That's always been the big barrier to mainstream BCI, hasn't it? The sheer awkwardness of it.
Exactly. That barrier, however, seems to be dissolving now. Our research team detailed a collaboration that resulted in an around-the-ear EEG prototype. And the picture suggests it looks almost exactly like a sleek, modern Bluetooth ear set, or maybe a hearing aid.
Around the ear, so no cap, no visible wires, just something tucked behind your ear. That is a major engineering breakthrough.
It really is.
Yeah.
Because it potentially solves the whole issue of bulk in aesthetics. The challenge, apparently, was finding the optimal spots around the sensitive skin of the ear, places like the concha and the mastoid process behind the ear. They had to figure out how to embed tiny electrodes there that can reliably capture high-quality neural signals, but still be comfortable enough for potentially all-day wear.
And they managed it.
The prototype suggests they did, which means you wouldn't need the cap anymore. You could have a discrete BCI device that just looks like another wearable accessory.
Okay, the form factor is cool, but what about the functionality? What could this ear EEG actually do? The prototype was validated for a couple of things, right?
It was. Two primary functions were verified. First, something very practical for safety. It accurately detected the onset of user drowsiness in real time.
Drowsiness detection. Okay, I can immediately see the use cases there. Driver safety, obviously, maybe pilots, air traffic controllers.
For sure. But also think about workplace safety monitoring or even education. Imagine a device that could alert a student or maybe their teacher when their attention level dips below a certain threshold during a lesson.
Interesting. Okay, that's the practical side. What was the second function? This one sounded maybe a bit more unnerving.
Yeah, the second function points towards a future that might be less about safety and more about, well, targeted commerce and content, preference analysis.
Reference analysis using brainwaves.
Exactly. The research demonstrated that by using sophisticated AI algorithms to analyze the EEG brainwave patterns, the prototype could identify participants' personal video preferences, basically, what kind of content they liked or disliked watching, with a truly stunning 92.86% accuracy.
Almost 93% accuracy,
That was
just
good.
from reading brainwaves around the ear.
That's what the study reported. It's a remarkable level of predictive accuracy.
Wow, okay, that's transformative for any industry that relies on attention, isn't it? We're talking actual neuromarketing.
That's the term, yes. Because unlike current metrics, which rely on your explicit actions, like clicking like or how long you watch something, this BCI is tracking implicit, involuntary cognitive and emotional states.
So the machine could know your unfiltered subconscious emotional reaction to an ad or a news headline or a movie trailer.
Without you ever consciously forming the thought, oh, I like this or I don't like this. It potentially reads the underlying preference before you're even fully aware of it yourself.
Okay, setting aside the ethical questions for just a second. That level of prediction is chilling. It means the machine might know what you want to watch, or maybe even buy, before you consciously feel the desire to click on it.
It certainly accelerates the whole idea of commodifying attention to an entirely new, much deeper level, reading the subconscious reaction.
Okay, wow. Let's perk the commercial side for a moment, though. The sources also highlighted some immediate, potentially profound benefits of non-invasive BCI in assistive technology.
Yes, absolutely. There was a clinical study detailed involving a non-invasive BCI headband, this one from a company called Cognition, which was paired specifically with an Apple Vision Pro headset.
A headband BCI plus the Vision Pro, what was the goal there?
This integration is aimed squarely at users with severe mobility impairments. People suffering from conditions like ALS or maybe high-level spinal cord injuries who have very limited or no physical control. The goal is to leverage the non-invasive neural signals picked up by the headband, combine that with the advanced gaze tracking already built into the Vision Pro, and allow these users to achieve conversational communication speeds, typing out messages, maybe controlling smart home devices, and fully navigate complex AR interfaces using only thought and gaze.
Just thought and gaze. That could be life-changing for people with those conditions.
Absolutely. It essentially democratizes neural control. It offers a significant non-surgical pathway towards restoring a level of independence and communication capability that might otherwise be impossible. Hashtags Tags 2.2, the Neuroethical Quagmire.
But this rapid shift, moving BCI from that kind of clinical necessity towards potentially becoming a consumer commodity, like the ear EEG, it forces us right back to those ethical stakes, doesn't it? When you have a technology that can potentially detect someone's preferences with 93% accuracy, what happens to privacy? Where do we draw the line?
The stakes are astronomical. They really are. And the research team is definitely sounding the alarm here. They warn that we are effectively creating what amounts to cognitive state as a service.
Cognitive state as a service. Explain that.
Well, think about current wearables. They track explicit actions or states you mostly control. Steps taken, heart rate variability, maybe when you manually start a workout log. BCIs, by contrast, are designed to track implicit, often involuntary, cognitive and emotional states. Your level of focus, drowsiness, maybe stress levels, emotional responses, subconscious preferences.
Data you might not even know you're generating.
Precisely. And it's profoundly sensitive, incredibly intimate data.
You're talking about devices that could potentially infer things about your underlying neurological health, maybe the very early signs of cognitive decline or chronic stress levels.
And then potentially share that inference or the raw data with a third party, an employer, an insurance company, a marketing platform.
That's the fear.
Exactly. This creates an entirely new category of neural data that feels far more sensitive, maybe more predictive, than even our current biometric or financial data. And the consensus across all the sources our team looked at was absolutely clear on this point. Our current legal and privacy frameworks, things like HIPAA for medical data or GDPR in Europe, they were designed for traditional data types. They are dangerously unprepared for this level of access to the subconscious mind.
So the tech is just leapfrogging way ahead of the social contract and the legal structures needed to manage it.
That is the absolute core challenge here. It raises urgent, almost existential questions about things like cognitive privacy, and it necessitates a rapid, very public and legislative dialogue around what some people are starting to call neuro rights.
Neuro rights, like human rights for the brain.
Kind of. Things like the right to mental integrity, not having your thoughts manipulated, the right to cognitive liberty, freedom of thought, and crucially, the right to protection against the unauthorized reading or decoding of your brain data.
We need new rules, basically, and fast. For a world where your own device might know your subconscious mind better than you do, or maybe better than you want it to.
We definitely need a framework before this technology becomes widespread. The potential for misuse is just too high otherwise.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? We love hearing your thoughts on this. Whether you're on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, leave a comment and let us know what you think about the future of neural interfaces and this whole idea of cognitive privacy. And if you're finding this insightful on YouTube, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Tomorrow Unveiled, and maybe consider hitting that new hype button, apparently, that helps us reach more viewers. And of course, be sure to turn on notifications so you never miss an update on the future. Okay, let's shift gears a bit now, moving from the mind to augmenting the physical body and our senses. We'll focus on how wearables are not just tracking us anymore, but actively enhancing our capabilities. Let's start with the sense of touch. The digital world, VR, AR, they've gotten pretty good at sight and sound, but high-fidelity, realistic touch haptics, that's always felt like the missing piece for true immersion, hasn't it?
It really has been the missing half, yeah.
Yeah.
But that sensory gap might finally be closing. There was a fundamental breakthrough detailed this week coming out of Northwestern University. It concerns their new full freedom of motion, or FOM, actuator technology for haptics.
Freedom of motion, FOM. Okay.
And this tech apparently represents a giant leap forward from what we have now. The current state of the art in most devices is just simple, blunt, single-axis vibration. You know, the basic buzz you feel from your phone or your smartwatch.
Right, it just kind of buzzes in and out against your skin. How is this FOM actuator fundamentally different, mechanically speaking?
The key difference lies in the directionality of the force it can apply. Traditional haptics, as you said, they just vibrate perpendicularly to the skin in and out, buzz, buzz. The FOM actuator is compact, but it uses a really intricate system of magnets and coils, apparently similar to a highly refined voice coil structure you'd find in a good speaker. And this structure allows the device to apply force to the skin in any direction, not just up and down, but side to side, diagonally. It can push, pull, slide, or even twist against the skin.
Wow, push, pull, slide, twist, all from one tiny actuator. That sounds incredibly complex to miniaturize and control.
It absolutely is. But it's this ability to generate what they call lateral shearing force across the skin, that side-to-side or twisting movement. That's the key. That's what enables the simulation of really complex pressure and, crucially, texture.
Texture.
The research suggests that by finally controlling the combination of these different directional forces, the device can reproduce dynamic sensations. So imagine simulating the precise feeling of your finger dragging across a rough piece of wood versus smooth silk, or maybe the subtle resistance and then the click of pressing a virtual button.
Okay, that is a total game changer for immersion, making virtual objects actually feel tangible and real in VR or AR.
Exactly. But the applications go way beyond just consumer entertainment or gaming. Think about something like telerobotics.
Remote surgery, maybe?
Precisely. Imagine a surgeon operating remotely, maybe thousands of miles away, using a robotic arm. If they were wearing a haptic glove or suit integrated with this FOM technology, they could actually feel the precise resistance, the texture, maybe the tension of the remote tissue they're manipulating through the robot. That can lead to huge increases in precision and safety.
Yeah, I can see that. Or maybe in prosthetics.
Another huge area, giving users of prosthetic limbs much richer, more nuanced sensory feedback. Feeling the contour, the weight, the texture of an object they're grasping, that would lead to far more intuitive, more embodied control of the limb. Hashtag 3.2, Prosumer physical augmentation.
Okay, so from digitally feeling the world to enhancing our actual physical strength within it. The research team also flagged the massive maturation happening in exoskeletons. This isn't just sci-fi concepts anymore, is it? It's actually becoming a commercial product category, something you might actually buy maybe for a weekend hike.
We're definitely seeing the prosumerization, that move from purely professional or industrial use into the high-end consumer market of what was previously military-grade or highly specialized medical technology. The key development highlighted this week was the launch of a product called the Hypershell X Ultra.
Hypershell X Ultra.
And what's remarkable is, first, how lightweight it is. It apparently weighs in at under 4 pounds, made from advanced stuff like carbon fiber and titanium alloys.
Under 4 pounds, that's like carrying a small laptop.
Pretty much. And second, critically, the introductory price point was surprisingly accessible, relatively speaking, $1,999.
Okay, $2,000. Still a lot, but that price point is what signals the market shift, isn't it? It's moving out of the tens of thousands range.
Yeah.
What kind of performance does something that light actually deliver?
Pretty significant performance, actually, which really proves how mature portable motor and battery tech have become. The motor system inside, called the M1 Ultra, can deliver up to 1,000 watts of assistance power.
A kilowatt of boost from a 4-pound device.
Yeah, and the verification data confirms that users experienced a reduction in their physical exertion, how hard their body felt it was working, by up to 22% while just walking on flat ground. And an even more impressive 39% reduction in exertion while cycling.
Wow, a 39% reduction in effort while cycling, or nearly a quarter less effort just walking. That's huge for endurance activities, or just long hikes with a heavy pack.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is the clear market strategy they seem to be employing. They're initially targeting hikers and outdoor enthusiasts, weekend warriors.
Makes sense as an early adopter market.
It does, but it shows that the underlying costs for these miniaturized high-torque motors, for the AI control systems needed to predict human gait and apply assistance smoothly, the high-density batteries, it's all matured enough now to move the exoskeleton out of the, specialized industrial warehouse or the military lab and into the consumer space.
And the implications go way beyond just hiking, right?
Oh, absolutely. Think about industrial safety. Reducing fatigue and potentially preventing injury for workers in construction or logistics who do repetitive lifting or walking. Or think about providing affordable, reliable mobility assistance for an aging population, maybe without the stigma sometimes associated with traditional walkers or mobility scooters.
Yeah, it really blurs the line, doesn't it, between a consumer gadget, an industrial tool, and maybe even a medical assistance device.
That convergence is happening fast.
Okay, and that brings us nicely to what might be the most significant transition we saw this week. Wearables moving definitively from that general wellness kind of lifestyle market into the realm of rigorous clinical diagnostics, the lifeline market, as the research team called it.
Yeah, this shift is profound. It's really about moving the point of care increasingly out of the hospital or the clinic and into the patient's home, enabling continuous proactive monitoring that could genuinely save lives.
And we saw some major moves specifically in cardiac health this week, didn't we? Highlighting how AI is translating complex clinical data into actionable warnings for consumers. Hashtag tech 4.1 proactive cardiac monitoring.
We did. First up, there was Samsung's announcement. They're rolling out detection for left ventricular systolic dysfunction, LVSD, on their Galaxy Watch.
LVSD, okay, remind us what that is.
It's a pretty serious condition where the heart's main pumping chamber, the left ventricle, isn't pumping blood out efficiently enough. It's often a precursor, an early warning sign for heart failure down the line.
And Samsung's watch can detect this now.
The significance is really twofold here. First, the detection isn't just based on simple heart rate. It's powered by sophisticated AI algorithms analyzing ECG and potentially other sensor data from the watch. And second, crucially, these algorithms received official approval from South Korea's Ministry of Food and Drug Safety.
Ah, so it's a regulated medical function, not just a wellness tip.
Exactly. It means it's met a certain standard of clinical validity. This technology, apparently developed with clinical partners, allows for continuous non-invasive analysis of your heart function. It could enable early screening for a condition that often goes completely unnoticed until it becomes much more critical.
So they're successfully translating specialized clinical measurements into an everyday wearable?
That's the goal, bringing proactive screening to the wrist.
And there was a second, maybe even more specialized development. FDA clearance for something called the Cardiosense Cardiotag.
Yes, and this one is a brilliant example of using multimodal sensing, combining several different types of measurements to get a much more complete picture of the heart's actual function.
Multimodal, meaning it measures more than just ECG.
Right. This wearable patch, The Cardiotag is apparently unique because it's the first cleared device to simultaneously capture three distinct cardiac signals. First, you have the standard electrocardiogram, the ECG, which measures the heart's electrical activity. We're familiar with that from smartwatches. Second, it captures the photoplethysmogram, or PPG. That's what most watches use too, measuring changes in blood volume using light absorption to track pulse rate and rhythm.
Okay, ECG and PPG. What's the third signal? This one sounds less common. SCG.
SCG stands for a seismocardiogram. It measures the subtle mechanical microvibrations of the chest wall that are specifically caused by the heart's actual physical pumping activity, the opening and closing of valves, the movement of blood.
So it's measuring the physical thump of the heart, essentially.
In a very precise, sensitive way, yes.
Yeah.
So by combining the electrical signal, ECG, with the blood flow information, PPG, and the actual mechanical movement, SEG, the Cardiosense device can provide a far more comprehensive and robust picture of cardiac pumping efficiency and even structural health than any single one of those measurements could give you alone.
That makes sense. You get the electrical, the flow, and the mechanics all together.
Exactly. And the ultimate implication of tools like this and the Samsung feature is that they facilitate continuous monitoring of people who might be at risk right in their own homes. They effectively turn the patient into a constantly monitored data hub.
Which means they could potentially catch those subtle, complex physiological signs of the heart declining weeks, maybe even months, before a critical, catastrophic event like hospitalization for heart failure occurs.
That's the promise. Fundamentally moving the point of care from being reactive, waiting for symptoms in the hospital, to being proactive and preventative, managing health continuously at home. Hashtag TAG 4.2, expanding healthcare applications.
And it wasn't just about the heart, was it? The research team also corroborated several other breakthrough areas that further establish wearables as serious, long-term clinical tools. Things like material science.
Yeah, beyond the heart, there were advances in enabling technologies. One key area was material science. Some Korean institutions published breakthroughs in self-healing polymers for wearables.
Self-healing polymers, like the plastic fixes itself if it gets scratched.
Kind of, yeah. It's highly technical, involves things like dynamic covalent bonds or hydrogen bonding within the material's structure. But essentially, these are polymer materials, flexible plastics or elastomers that can be integrated into the structure of wearable electronics. And they're designed to automatically repair minor structural damage. Small cracks, maybe tears caused by repeated flexing and bending during wear.
Okay, why is that important for health wearables?
Because it dramatically improves durability and long-term flexibility. If you have a sensor patch that needs to be worn continuously for weeks, months, maybe even years for chronic condition monitoring, you need it to be incredibly reliable. Self-healing materials mean significantly less maintenance, less chance of failure, and just better long-term performance.
That makes perfect sense for clinical trials or remote patient monitoring where reliability is absolutely key.
Exactly. And we also saw more research showing how these wearable biosignals, all this continuous data, are being used to feed AI models for predictive health simulations. The digital twin concept.
Right, digital twins in medicine. How does that work with wearables?
Well, you take those continuous streams of data, the EEG from an ear EEG, maybe the ECG and SCG from a cardiac patch, movement data from an accelerometer, and you feed it all into these highly sophisticated AI modeling platforms. These platforms then create a highly accurate, dynamic, constantly updating virtual replica, a digital twin, of that specific patient's physiological state.
A virtual copy of the patient based on their real-time data.
Exactly. And the power of that is that researchers and clinicians can then test things on the twin. They can simulate different treatment options, maybe try different drug dosages, model the effects of lifestyle changes, all within that virtual environment. It allows them to predict how the real patient might respond and what their health trajectory might look like without actually subjecting the real patient to interventions that might be ineffective or even harmful. It could radically accelerate the speed and safety of clinical trials and personalized treatment plans.
That's incredible potential. And finally, one more practical thing. Tackling the battery life problem, maybe eliminating it entirely. You mentioned Zeolesi's self-powered sensor.
Yes, this is another really exciting step towards truly maintenance-free sensing. This particular sensor technology is designed to harvest energy directly from ambient human movement. It uses tiny mechanical energy converters, often based on things like piezoelectric or triboelectric effects, to generate its own power just from the wearer walking around or moving their limbs.
So no batteries needed, or at least much less reliance on them.
Exactly. It potentially eliminates the need for bulky batteries or frequent recharging in certain remote health monitoring applications. Think about tracking movement patterns in dementia patients continuously or monitoring people living in very remote areas,
Hmm.
places where requiring someone to constantly intervene to recharge a device just isn't feasible or reliable.
A sensor that powers itself just from the patient moving naturally, that removes a huge barrier for long-term, unobtrusive monitoring.
It really does. It's another piece of the puzzle for making wearables truly integrated long-term lifelines. So if we try and connect all these threads, pull back to the bigger picture, the central theme running through everything our research team found this past week is this dramatic convergence. We're seeing the rapid coming together of sophisticated AI, these revolutionary new neural input methods like sEMG and non-invasive BCI, and sensors that are achieving true clinical-grade accuracy and reliability.
Yeah, it feels like all the pieces are starting to click into place. The industry seems to be moving incredibly fast towards these symbiotic integrated systems that don't just respond to our commands, but are actually designed to anticipate our intent, maybe even our
That's
needs.
a direction, absolutely. Anticipatory computing, deeply integrated.
It's an incredibly exciting trajectory, but we're not quite there yet in terms of mass adoption, are we? For this technology to really move from the tech enthusiasts and early adopters into the true mass market, we still need to hit a few critical tipping points. Our research teams seem to outline three main requirements for this integrated future to really take hold.
That's right. First, perhaps obviously, is price. We talk about the $799 Meta glasses, the nearly
Hmm.
$2,000 exoskeleton. For smart glasses in particular, to reach genuine ubiquity and maybe even start displacing the smartphone as our primary computing platform, they almost certainly have to aggressively fall below that sub $500 threshold.
Right, the $500 mark feels like the psychological barrier for most people adding a second major computing device like that to their lives.
Agreed. Second, we desperately need a true killer app, or maybe a killer experience. The core functionality has become so indispensable, so seamlessly useful, that people feel they can't imagine living without it.
And that probably comes back to that context-aware, proactive AI assistant we discussed earlier, doesn't it?
Very likely, an AI that genuinely, seamlessly blends our digital and physical reality
Yeah.
in a way that feels truly transformative, not just like a clever gimmick or a notification delivery system on your face.
Okay, so price drops, and we need that killer AI experience. What's the third requirement? This one feels maybe the trickiest.
It probably is. Regulatory clarity. And linked to that, public trust. Policymakers, regulators. They need to move rapidly to address the really unique and challenging questions raised by things like neural data privacy and also the implications of pervasive, continuous first-person camera surveillance from millions of pairs of smart glasses.
Because without clear rules and safeguards, public trust will just evaporate, right?
Yeah.
And that becomes the ultimate bottleneck.
Absolutely. Trust is entirely contingent on having transparent data practices and genuinely strong legal protections, especially for something as sensitive as cognitive privacy and neuro rights.
So the technological trajectory seems clear. It's being driven hard by fierce strategic competition and these incredible scientific breakthroughs we've discussed. But the race to integrate these technologies into our lives seems to be accelerating so fast. Maybe faster than the regulatory frameworks and the social contracts around privacy and data use can possibly keep up. They feel dangerously lagging behind.
That's the crux of it. So maybe here's our final provocative thought for you, our listeners, to consider. The systems we talked about today, the neural bands reading muscle intent, the ear EGs potentially inferring preference, the multimodal cardiac monitors gathering deep physiological data, they generate these unprecedented volumes of incredibly intimate biometric and behavioral data, often gathered from our subconscious minds or bodies without our active input. The fundamental question for the next few years, maybe the next decade, isn't if these systems will enhance us or integrate with us. That seems almost inevitable now. The real question is, how quickly can society, and crucially our regulators, mature enough to actually protect the user from the potential downsides of the very systems designed to integrate with and enhance them?
Can we build the guardrails before the high-speed train leaves the station? That really is the ultimate challenge of the integrated human, isn't it?
It truly is. And on that note, if you're listening on a podcast service like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we'd be incredibly grateful if you could take a moment to leave us a rating and perhaps a review for Tomorrow Unveiled. It genuinely helps us reach new listeners interested in these topics.
Absolutely. And we always love hearing your thoughts. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast app, please drop a comment below. Let us know what you think about the future of wearable tech. about the ethics of cognitive privacy, about any of the things we discussed today.
Thank you for joining us on Tomorrow Unveiled.
Continue exploring the future, stay curious, and we'll be here to guide you through the next technological frontier.